This is Moment Tonight. Welcome. Many thanks for joining us. We bring you the real stories.
Abdallah, have you put pepper in the tea?
My environment alone will tell you that I'm rich.
I've chosen to be in one of the very shallow pits. They also do have miscreants, but it doesn't mean that all of them are criminals.
We do not have a good geo database of our mineral resources.
This is a time for us to share the oil money.
So terrorism is not going to be accepted on this continent.
If they see them coming here and going back, they will be killed.
But God willing, I'll be back alive.
We're just about leaving on the night patrol with the AU forces here in Somalia.
The real issues, the real talk.
We are working together for the development of Ghana.
It means that we have separation of power.
Already we're talking about moving from what? A deficit of some 9% to 6.5%.
The critical challenge that faces every leader in the world today is the issue of creating jobs.
We will put at least 1 million people to work.
Ghana, after 60 years, has a public structure that is not responsive.
Mr. President, I thought this was your main issue why you came here.
Join me, Abdul Hai Moment Tonight, from Monday to Friday, 8:15 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. on GBC 24.
I'm exceedingly excited to welcome you to Moment Tonight here on GBC 24. My name is Mumin, and tonight we take a look at shelter. We're looking at how to address the housing deficit, and I'll tell you why. Because shelter is one of the basic necessities of life, and that about 1 billion homes are needed to meet the world's demands for urban housing. Now, as part of its share of this global housing challenge, Ghana, as at 2010, needed almost 1.7 million housing units in order to address this phenomenon. However, defective land tenure system, high cost of land, and inadequate mortgage finance have been cited as some of the factors influencing the shortage of houses in the country. Though there have been various initiatives by the state as well as corporate bodies, these initiatives are yet to offer a lasting solution to this problem. On its part, the Ningo Pram District Assembly is embarking on a project that is envisaged to contribute to the provision of needed affordable houses in the district and probably even beyond. And this, it is hoped, would help reduce the country's housing deficit. With me are two distinct personalities who have a mandate, among other things, to ensure the success of that project. I'll introduce them from my immediate left, and we have the District Chief Executive of Ningo Pram, Honorable Jonathan Tay Doku. Honorable, thank you very much. I've read about you, I've heard about you. It's my first time meeting you, and I'm glad. Thank you for accepting our invitation here. Also, as the project manager of the Planned City Extension Project, he is Danny Ohene-Edu. Danny Ohene-Edu, I've met a number of times, we've had conversations, but this is the first time we're engaging in a conversation on TV. Thank you very much also for accepting our invitation here. Honorable, let me start the conversation with you. Maybe you will be able to tell us so that we put this conversation in proper perspective moving forward. So you are a district chief executive, and I'm at that level, decentralized level. We normally would hear about road construction, a market here, or some school building here. But what is your mandate when it comes to provision of housing units for people?
Thank you very much, and let me say a very good evening to the good people of Ningo Pram and for that matter, Ghana. Yes, as you clearly stated, yes, when it comes to the assemblies, the only thing people always remembers or think about assembly is the provision of a school building and markets and clinics, cheap compounds here and there. But embedded in the Act 936, that is the Local Government Act, is the assemblies. We are responsible for housing, and proper demarcation of their lands and proper planning of the assemblies. You see, so we are not only restricted to the provision of schools and the other things. Housing is a core mandate of the district assembly, and especially when Ningo Pram, as you know, Greater Accra, every place is choked down. Everybody is moving from Accra Tema towards Ningo Pram, and then it becomes quite imperative that we should need to put our house in order. So that at least the problems you are seeing in Accra now, especially when it is raining now, we don't have those problems there. So housing is a core mandate of the assemblies, but because it is quite capital intensive, that is why most times we shy away from that, and we only look at the schools and the markets and some other few things.
So, Danny, you are the project manager of the Planned City Extension project, but why has this project become necessary in the first place?
It is because, you see, Ghana is urbanizing. We have crossed the urban divide, about 52–53% now. And whether we like it or not, areas will continue to urbanize. Like the Chief Executive said, we do not want to see the way other areas, like Kaswa, like, even Ashaima, just right here with us, it sprawls, community sprawls, and sometimes the district assemblies, it appears, are not in control. Being smart, let me put it that way, the assembly decided that, look, let's have a planned city. We're not going to wait till, developments go ahead before we now start to see where to align roads, where to align drainage, and so on and so forth. So, if you look at areas, slums have developed all over the place, and you wonder whether, whether they are authorities. But the assembly, and I personally, I like the attitude of the assembly. I like the attitude of the chief executive, wanting to make sure or see that these things are prevented. That's why we have this project.
Okay, so I can tell you, you talk about planned city and the fact that things have to be planned ahead of time.
That's right.
Tema is a typical example of what once used to be a planned city. Unfortunately, my point of view is that Tema has lost that beauty, that plan. It's all gone. We've allowed slums to develop in Tema. The communities have intertwined. You can't separate one community from another. And so, talking about plan, this is not a novelty. We have had it before, except that our attitude, collective attitude, didn't let it work. How can you assure us that this one will work, especially again, given the fact that when it comes to housing schemes, we've had several that failed to stand the test of time? I can give a few examples. SNET housing scheme. And SNET, at a point, had to sell off those houses because the Ghanaian attitude at the time was that they were living in those buildings yet not paying rent. And SNET couldn't kick them out. That policy of SNET has halted. I can also tell you about the STX deal, which never saw the light of day. The affordable housing scheme, which has struggled since the 2000s, the early 2000s till date. You are here telling us about a new housing project. From history, we've learned we have never been able to see things through. You can give us some assurance?
You see, what I believe is that probably it's because of the models, of those schemes. When you look at different types of, for instance, we already know the reasons why housing is a challenge. Land tenure system, you have high cost of credit, low incomes, and such like. I believe that in working some of these things out, you need to really look at what will really work. Our scheme is a hybrid of several schemes that we have put together. Let me tell you something. The mortgage system we have is very oppressive. That's the opinion of some of us. So you want to look at schemes that people can hook onto without struggle. You understand? The chief executive mentioned that the assemblies has a mandate to provide social amenities. Social amenities involves housing, it involves roads, it involves education, it involves health, and so on and. You see, but when we come back to housing, what are the income levels? For instance, what is the government seeking to do? What's in the party's manifesto, for instance? You understand? So we're doing this to be complementary, but how do we work it out so that the ordinary man on the street can do it? Okay. If they're unable to pay, you have issues.
And just a little addition to, the previous cases you made mention of. These were things that were exclusively championed by the state, the government. And you know the attitude of the Ghanaian towards government projects and programs. This is something we are doing that is not exclusively owned by the Assembly. The Assembly is only facilitating the processes for a private person to undertake whatever is needed, put in the infrastructure, the roads, the electricity, water, telecommunication. That is all the Assembly is trying to do. Because as a chief executive, I've been confronted several times of people coming to tell us, where this person is building is the layout. Where this person is building is the road. And this person has to move this person, and all manner of things. And we develop before we plan. And this is what we want to avoid. So it is not like the Senate where, somebody sits being appointed by the government and somebody tells you, I need 2 houses for this person. I need this for this person. And I think those were the things that contributed to the failure of the previous housing schemes you mentioned. This is, as the project manager said, is an entirely different arrangement altogether. And I'm sure as the discussion progresses, you understand.
But maybe we still need to address the political problems within these schemes, including what I perceive could be in this current one. And that's when you take a look at the affordable housing scheme, for instance. It started under one regime. The regime's tenure came to an end, and the project stalled. You are a politician, Honorable, and so at some point in time, you may want to take credit if this project becomes successful, that it was under your watch that it happened. And being political, if your opponent happens to come after you, the tendency, as we've seen, is that they will try to stop it and start their own, which they can take credit for. This is what I have seen.
The good news is that this is a scheme or a project that did not start in 2017 as I became the chief executive. Until I became the chief executive, I was an assembly member of Ningo, an elected assembly member. So I knew somewhere in 2014, 2015, that was when this whole idea was conceived. And I think the UN Habitat came in as a partner to organize a series of, but knowing the importance of this scheme, I came and I've given it the needed impetus, to reach the level. As this is a scheme that has gone to the General Assembly, that has been passed, which I was a member then. So I don't think somebody comes tomorrow, and especially when the Assembly, as it were, is not financing the project, all what we are trying to do is that, and especially as a result of the migration or the movement of people from Accra all over to Ningo Pram Pram. You know, land has become like a hot commodity. You know, people are just buying this speculative buying here and there. So what Assembly decided to do so that we avoid all these problems is to go to the landowners. You know the land tenure system, as you mentioned in your intro. The problem of the land tenure system, that government doesn't own the lands, is the individual families. And so we went to the families, we had discussions with them as to why they need to partner the Assembly. So that once we put in infrastructure, while we put in whatever is needed, even the value of the land even goes up. And a very elaborate plan. So that if tomorrow those houses are, the families that gave out the land, they will be benefiting from every year until, you know, forever. So I don't really believe this is something that I will die with me leaving office or with MPP government today, because at least it has transcended NDC, MPP is in power, looking at the importance of housing and the need for us to do proper planning. I think we, in the past, and I can speak about Saglimi house, affordable housing, that is in my district, and I can tell you the challenges. Sometimes if you do things and in some kind of way and it is not very transparent, you know, that is when all these issues happen. This is something that's gone to the General Assembly. And I know, although we say the Assembly is not political, you know, on paper, in reality, we all know what happens there. So I don't want to believe that I'll leave office and this whole idea will come. No, from every stage of the way, everybody is involved. Everybody who matters
on the issue of financing, I was reserving that question for Danny, but since you brought it up, who is financing this project?
We are doing that in collaboration with a private developer. Okay,
so I asked you that question, Honorable, because when it comes to private persons doing business, their main aim is to make money. Yet, the operational word within this project is affordable housing. How affordable will these houses be? Because we've seen in the past, even where government was involved and where we expected to have a lot of subsidies, the affordability was within the range of $35,000, $50,000, $70,000. And the average Ghanaian worker takes home just about $1,500 a month.
Yes,
that is not affordable.
That is true. I would like my project manager to answer, but before that, you see, it depends on the duration of the payment of that $70,000 or whatever scheme that is there. What we are doing is a different thing altogether, and I think you will elaborate on that. This is a scheme. The houses are ready. You register, you pay. The houses are ready. What we call the rent to own. I'm sure if you don't have your own property as we speak, you are probably paying rent for a landlady or a landlord somewhere else. So that is the kind of arrangement we are having. That you are in the home and you are paying rent, yet you are paying for your own house. But I think I will leave it to him so that I can expatiate on
exactly. But when I come to you, I'll ask a very biased question on behalf of GBC workers and whether or not they qualify to apply for these houses ahead of time. But tell us about the financing and the fact that the fear is that these, judging from history, these houses may not really be as affordable as the word may suggest.
Yes, you know, I can assure you that it is affordable. Maybe if there's any word, you know, or statement like that. Affordable in a sense that you have a long time to pay. Affordable in the sense that we have looked at various income levels within the public sector, within the civil service, people who sell on the street, the Asana who sells cocoa by the street side, the Kofi Bedu who is selling, you know, onions on the street, the one who is pulling truck. You know, I'll tell you something. We did a survey I personally was involved. Some people that live in a certain slum pay as much as 40 Ghana cedis, 45 Ghana cedis, 50 Ghana cedis per week to live in some wooden, structures. Now, if these people can pay 200 Ghana cedis a month and they are selling on the street, why can't we be proactive and provide them with decent accommodation? I mean, over a long period of time, and it all depends on how we negotiate with the landowners. And if they're able to do so, trust me, you cannot see some of the slums we see along the motorway and various places, even East Legon today. The kind of slums that have developed there, it's an eyesore. But as an assembly, the proactiveness, I think for me it's quite refreshing. I'm saying it's affordable. If you want me to give you range, maybe we'll come back later.
But you see, you described the status quo, especially when it comes to the mortgage system in Ghana. And I'm quoting, you said the mortgage system is oppressive.
Yes.
I remember these words very clearly.
That's right.
And it's oppressive, and I agree with you, because there are times we have had reports where people pay up to 15 years, there's a certain mishap, they are unable to continue, and they're ejected.
That's right.
And so all the past payments come to naught.
That's right.
You are saying that the payment will be stretched over a period of time. A period of time within which, if one defaults, there will surely be penalties.
Of course.
And then we are returning to the oppressive tenor that you were talking about.
Let me tell you how our scheme is going to operate typically. When you register, after you've completed your forms and all of that, you start paying your rentals, monthly rentals. The houses are delivered to you within 36 to 48 months. Then you continue to pay until 20 years. Now, the 36 to 48 months, you're giving a certificate of occupancy. You are in there and you continue to pay. Of course, we know there will be several people who will line up wanting to join or hook up onto the scheme. The repayments, as I said, are affordable to the extent that if someone who wants a fully serviced plot can pay as low as 10 Ghana cedis a day for the period, you're going to get yourself a fully serviced plot. A fully serviced plot, we are talking about communities or plots that have the roads tarred, that have drainage, that have security, that have all the benefits that you can think of. For those who want flats, they also have a range which is also very affordable. Because of the length of time, the duration, the 20 years, you have yourself a home. If you're going on retirement, there's a place, a security man whose salary is so low at the ministry can go on retirement, not being anxious. You understand? That system is available. That kind of arrangement is available. Whether it's a flat, 1-bedroom flat, or 2-bedroom flat, 3-bedroom flat, whether it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom detached or semi-detached homes, it is affordable. Because if we're telling you pay within 3 years, you cannot pay, that's not affordable. You understand? But we're telling you pay these amounts. It's like you're paying rent. So a time is coming. What's going to happen is that if this scheme succeeds, which we believe it will succeed, rent advances 2 years, 3 years rent advance, 1 year rent advance will now be slowing down, will reduce. And so people can keep that money in their pockets. That's poverty reduction.
Okay, so still on the payment regime, there are times that unexpected events happen. And so a regular payer all of a sudden finds himself in a very tight corner, and so it is unable to pay for 2, 3, 4, or 5 months.
Yeah.
What happens to such a person?
There is a system that's going to be closer. You know, it has a certain social bit, you know, because the whole idea is to help. So if you want to help and someone is in a very tight corner, what you do, you get closer to the person and find out whether the challenges are real. Because some of us, you know, are not very honest. Some of us are not honest. You understand? So we would study such a case. Of course, it's not going to be across board. It will be treated on a case-by-case basis. You have to look at such a person and let things work out a system. If it is possible to assist the person to the end, why not?
Okay, so I'll come back to you again with the specific question of how much.
Okay.
If you may want to share that with us. But Honorable, there are those who, and probably during the course of this program, will allow some persons to call in and share their views with us. But there are those who believe that what you're doing is just a duplication of what the Ministry of Works and Housing is already doing. We have a state housing company involved in some activities, even with private developers and so on. This is just a duplication.
I would like to disagree with that assertion. If somebody thinks this is just a complementary something, and as I alluded to earlier, it is even the core mandate of the assemblies to do some of these things. So we're doing that, and I don't think that if you leave the State Housing Corporation, the Ministry of Works and Housing alone, the deficit in housing we have in Ghana, they alone can't do that. Yeah. It is not possible. So it is kind of a complementary thing. And as he mentioned, you know, we are trying as much as possible. You know where we are coming from, Ninko Pampram. It's not like Trasago, it's not like East Legon. So the type of housing we are also putting up may be different from what the Ministry of Works will be looking at. And the target groups too are different. You know, so it cannot be that we are just duplicating whatever the ministry and the, no. These are two different things altogether. And we want to concentrate more on local materials, you know, in putting up the structures. So we are not duplicating. Is, you know, for lack of a better expression, let me say it's just a complementary something we are doing in addition to what it works and
Honorable, I will not mention the names of or the companies of private developers who are involved in provision of housing for Ghanaians, but you know that wherever you have private developers, those areas are prime areas to start with. They become prime areas, but they are also very expensive because the prime aim of the private developer is to make money. Now you are bringing private developers and project manager says, oh, it's because they want to help. But we know that private people don't just want to help, they also want to make their money.
Yes, of course, they will make their money. But we are not expecting them to make unreasonable money. Are you getting the point? That is why the assembly, first of all, is collaborating with them. The private people you made mention of, right? They go and look for their own land, they do their own stuff, and they put up their houses and they sell. Or they mortgage it. Is that not the case? This is what has, and I'm saying that this time around, the assembly itself has spoken to the chiefs, the traditional leaders, the families, people who own the land. So they have given the lands to the assembly to manage on their behalf. So it's a different thing from a private person going to look for a piece of land somewhere in Trasaco, somewhere in East Legon, Jowulu, to put up a building. No. That is why the assembly is in there. And I don't think the assembly is in to make profit. Of course, whatever the private person will invest eventually the person has to recoup whatever investment the person might have made. It doesn't mean that we allow them to just rip off Ghanaians. No.
Okay.
So that is why we are in there, so that there are certain things the assembly is taking care of, so that they also don't go and get a land and they are frustrated. You know, they will go to court for 10, 15 years before probably they get access to the land. And all those things are factored in the cost of the housing. These are things we are avoiding. Right. And for that matter, it makes it so cheaper for people to. So I don't think people...
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But before I bring Danny back into the picture, you know, when you look at areas that have developed outside the main Accra city, like Kasua, like Pokwasi area towards Nsawam and so on, you'll find out that traffic eventually moves to those areas and people spend valuable hours in traffic just to get to and from work. So when this project kicks off and actually becomes successful, traffic will be driven towards that area. And therefore people will be inconvenienced. Social amenities such as hospitals and schools would have to be provided, because then people would have to take their children to school and go to the hospitals. Have you
yes, I'm sure we have concentrated so much on the housing, only the housing. But as the name of the project suggests, is what? The City Extension Project. So we are in to have a holistic provision of some of these things. If you come to, as part of the City Extension Project, we are trying to link Pram to Pum, so that if you are going to Tema, you don't drive through the Winya motorway roundabout. You go to Pum. As part of the City Extension Project, we are going to have some light rails. So these are things that have been factored. Don't forget the N1. Right. You know, the Trans-ECOWAS highway. You know, it passes through the place. As part of the program and together with central government, you know, we want to dualize the whole place. Dualization of that road is part of. So all these things have been thought of. We are not mentioning it because we are concentrating only on the housing scheme. But obviously, if you take the big whole thing, we have places where we are going to have our educational facilities. We have demarcated areas for light industrial projects. We have area for heavy industrial projects. We have places for agrarian or agriculture. So these are things that have been well thought of. And I said earlier, it's not only the assembly. We are doing this together with the UN Habitat, and that is, you know, their core, you know, mandate, the support. We were in Malaysia. We've showed them what we've done, and at least we are working together with them. So we have not lost sight of these challenges, and that is why all these things have been factored into the Ningo Pram City Extension Project. I'm sure in the next 5 years, when we roll up everything fully, we'll come back here and you see that, look, well, this is a different model, and this is something that has been well thought of. As I said earlier, this is something that has been started somewhere in 2014. So it means that we are not rushing, and we are trying to do things and do it well, so that tomorrow when I'm no more the DC, I'm somewhere. At least I can sit somewhere.
When you become the MP? Or the Minister of Housing? That was just by the way, Honorable. Let me bring Danny into the picture now. 3 questions in one. How soon will this project be ready? Who qualifies to apply for the housing units when they are ready? And thirdly, how much will it cost?
Thank you, Mr. Moomin. How soon? I can assure you that within the next 2 weeks or so, in fact, tentatively, within 2 weeks from now, it should be done, because virtually everything...
What should be done?
The announcement, official announcement, sorry.
Okay.
Official announcement of the project should be made, you know, by the Honorable himself. We have participating banks, local banks. Some of the media partners, are already on board. Website and, other payment systems and, gateways that should be done. All is virtually, I would say, is done, but we haven't gone live yet because we need to, tighten a few loose ends here and there. Who qualifies? Everybody qualifies. Everybody in Ghana qualifies, from the politician to the public servant, to the civil servant, to the police officer, to the military officer, to the person who sells on the streets. In fact, they are focused. I mean, the chief executive is very passionate about them because, you see, if you fail to plan for the poor, it becomes more expensive to maintain them or correct the mess that they create.
We've heard this kind of argument over and over and over again, but when it comes to playing the ball on the field, then it ends up being in the hands of people who know somebody who has a foot in somebody's office, who has an ear of some very important person, before you can have access to these units.
You see, this is how it's working. That's why the application is very important. The application or the registration of the applicants is important. So we know the backgrounds of those who have applied. And there are designated areas for, say, mechanics or drivers or public servants. Sometimes, you cannot mix all of them together. You understand? So you need to have it orderly and properly done. You cannot, one of the fears, as you're rightly saying, is that, so won't people from abroad, won't foreigners come and hijack it? Or maybe won't some rich politicians come and hijack it? But no, as you said, we have thought through, these are questions that have come in our interactions, in our stakeholder, engagements and so on. So we have put the systems in place to be able to curb or forestall some of the, even if it happens, trust me, it will be very minimal, because our focus is the low to middle income. That's, they form about virtually almost 90% of the demand, for housing. So if we don't do it well, if those people don't get the access, then it means that we have failed. We'll still have the struggles. We'll still have the slums developing around. Now, you talked about how much. I don't know whether I should.
Yes, how much?
Yes.
I'm sure anybody watching us would be interested in knowing, so they could start planning ahead.
How much? I can say that for a fully serviced plot, you'll be paying, as I said, as low as 10 Ghana cedis a day. In a month, you'll be paying like 300 Ghana cedis.
For how long?
For 20 years. You understand? And these are not just plots. Sometimes people talk of plots, you only see street lights, just put there and they demarcated the plot and that's it.
So 300 cedis, I'm sorry that I'm truncating your thoughts there. 300 cedis for 20 years.
Yeah.
Flat rate or subject to review based on changes in the economy, inflation, and so on?
Yeah, so it's for the land or for the plots, it's flat. And you have the option to pay fully at once. Someone doesn't want to, there are people who do not want to keep debts. You have the option to pay all or incrementally. You have the option to pay monthly, just so that you'll be comfortable. But if you're going to put up the houses, you're going to build or put up the houses according to our specification. So people won't build anyway, anyhow, haphazardly. For the flats, it's as low as about 750 Ghana cedis a month. And for the three-bedroom terrace houses, detached, semi-detached, it's as low as 1,800, 1,700, 1,800 a month. You have the option to pay fully if you have the amount, or you have the option to spread it monthly. And for me, I'm excited because the impression or the feedback we are getting that was something that it's revolutionary, you know, because really if you go to the other systems, mortgage and other things, you'd be paying some 3,500 Ghana cedis a month, 4,000 Ghana cedis a month. But if you look at the general income levels, trust me, it's something. There are people who are in the market. There's a big chunk of the informal sector, and let me say this, if I may, I am particularly addicted and thrilled by the Vice President's, you know, idea or campaign of, the policy of formalizing our economy. There's a huge market out there, or demand out there in the informal sector. They are one of our big, you know, targets. They need it. They want it, but they can't get it.
I'm worried that I was excited at a point, but I'm now worried.
Yeah.
You talked about eliminating slums.
That's right.
As being part of the idea
That's right.
that helped to conceive this project.
That's right.
But again, you talk about a minimum of 300 cedis a month.
That's right.
You talk about, if you want service plots, flats, it's 1,800, 1,500 a month.
Not flats.
Not flats?
Not flats. There are terrace houses.
Terrace houses. How about the flats? I'm just looking at affordability.
Yes, the flats.
You spoke about the ordinary Ghanaian,
Yes.
the kayaye, the man on the street, the mechanic.
Yes.
These are not people who earn that much.
You see, affordability doesn't mean we have to compromise on quality. For the flats, the highest from the figures that we have seen, for the flats, the highest is about 1,200. That's 3-bedroom flat. Then you come to the, you know, the detached and the semi-detached. The 3-bedroom detached ranges, it's about 1,800 Ghana cedis. 2-bedroom detached, that's, when we say detached, you know, you have your own compound and you can pound your fufu. You are free.
Yeah.
You have reasonable land space around. You'll be doing like 1,600 a month. In fact, if you check with the current rentals that people pay
for similar
facilities,
yeah,
then you would appreciate what we're talking about.
True. Honorable, let's...
Yes, you see, I sit here as the political head of the district assembly. And that is why the name of the assembly is Ningo Pram Pram. When you ask the question as to who and who can benefit from this whole scheme, of course, it's open to everybody in Ghana. But
the Jerusalem first.
Exactly. The people of Ningo Pram Pram, the people, the indigenous of Ningo Pram Pram, they are going to be the first target. And then we look at other people, you understand? Because if you don't do that, then obviously they will create the slums.
I know a family that's moved from the north and have stayed at Ningo Pram Pram for years.
Yeah.
They are not indigents.
But I said that the people of Ningo Pram Pram. So people residing in Ningo Pram Pram, they will be
how are you going to determine that?
Oh, of course, but we
you know them? Everybody? Is there any scientific way of finding out?
That is why I'm saying that this is the assembly. It is not like maybe central government moving to Ningo Pram Pram to come and implement a project. Every person, everywhere you are staying, there is an assembly member there. Is that not so? Especially when we are doing this, so that we can have a proper housing system and blah, blah, blah. So we are able to know people. And I'm saying that they are going to be the main target. Then other people from elsewhere, you know, will be considered.
You know, how many units are we looking at?
We are looking at between 300,000 to 500,000 within the next 5 years.
That's huge.
That's massive.
Because we have a deficit of about 1.7, and so if you're doing up to 500,000, that's
Accra alone accounts for almost 50% of the housing deficit. Yeah. That's how bad.
And you're saying it will be ready by 5 years. Are you going to do it in phases, or we have to wait until 2024?
No, we're doing it. We're doing it in phases. I mean, as people are applying, as they are paying, it's being done. But you know, we're going to be, the engineering is very key for us. We've got to get the engineering, the road and the drainage master plan properly done. You know, because we do not want to have floods. Fortunately, our area is not known to be one of, I mean, the
flood-prone areas.
No, the tremor, you know, earth tremor, earthquake, you know, areas. So but the studies and all of these things have got to be done well. Then the construction commences. So let me say that the early bird will catch the worm. I mean, for those who would apply this year, they have all the opportunities. You can get the good areas. You can get, I won't say any other place will be bad, but someone will say, look, I don't want to go too far. You know, I want this, that kind of thing. So we are hoping that we believe that a good work will be done. That's for us is key, the quality.
Okay. Right. Honorable, earlier you talked about UN Habitat. What role are they playing in this project, and what role is any other entity playing?
Yes, I think they have been the key people giving us the technical support. You know, in terms of technical, because they have done this concept in some other countries. I think we were in Malaysia together with them. We've seen some model in Kenya, right? Yeah. And some, I think, Ivory Coast, and some other. So what they are doing is giving us technical support. Let me also mention that a key institution like Central University, they've been very pivotal in supporting this with an office. You know, this is a higher learning institution. So in terms of brain power, and so this is something we've really thought through. Yeah, so I think I can mention, and some other individuals we've made presentations to, and they bought into the idea. Some surveyors, some planners, you know. So it is something huge, and Ghanaians should expect in the next 2 weeks or 3, once the major announcement is made, then I think we are good to go.
When exactly are we expecting this major announcement?
Yes, you know, as an assembly, you know, we have a mother ministry, that is a ministry of local government. We have the regional coordinating council as a supervisory. So we need to get all of them, and the day that will be convenient for. That is why we are not too sure, but we know a lot of discussions are going on, and hopefully in the next maybe 1 month, I think this whole thing will be sorted out.
And I'm sure you alert us so we
Definitely.
come and also witness.
I think GBC, you are the first media house. We are here today, or the first TV station. We are here today talking about. So obviously, I think you will be the first people to.
And I'm being asked to ask you if you reserve any concessions for specifically workers of GBC who might be interested.
Yes, of course, it can be done. It can be done. We want to look at the security services. We want to look all manner of people. So, and as I said, once we are here, the first TV station hosting us.
Because my colleague asking me to ask you that question got scared when you talked about indigents of Pram Pram.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, I'm saying that. Look, yes, of course, we will consider them. And you see, it should not scare your colleague, because this is a scheme that is happening in Pram Pram. So that if you don't plan it well to take care of the indigents and people living there, and we allow a lot of people from outside to hijack the whole thing. Who created the
So you're talking about local content?
The local content, exactly.
Okay.
local content.
So 300,000 housing units. On average, a household is made up of 5 people, the mother, father, and 3 children. So we're talking about 300,000 times 5. That's a huge number. We've already spoken about the other social amenities. But will it be enough to handle these numbers eventually when this project takes off, given that Pram Pram already has its own development issues as we speak?
Yes, it would be enough. The lands that have been pledged are quite huge, but of course we do not rush to take them. We investigate, before we catch them. We have, we have lands as far as the Shire Hills, and they are huge areas. Some of the lands are not, it's not like 20,000 or 30,000 contiguous.
Yeah.
You have 10,000, you have 5,000,
right.
So it's spread. And other areas, because we are reserving areas for green areas or agric, because you can't put the whole place for housing. What will you eat? You understand?
But let me allay your fears about this whole thing about the huge numbers. We see the sprawl because we have not planned the areas. I'm sure when you go to the city of London, the number of people and other cities. Even if you go to airport area, you understand? You see the number of people or these airports, the commercial area. These houses, the airport city. The number of people who comes there, but you don't see it because this is a well-planned place. So once we are able to plan the place very well with the housing, you may have 1 million plus people. You may not recognize that.
True.
Yes. So don't be scared.
So we are out of time now, but certainly this conversation would have to continue. We would have to get there and see for ourselves what is actually happening on the field, and probably also bring to our viewers the plan, the outline of roads and other things that are involved in this project moving forward. And then we'll continue to bring you assurances or otherwise of whether or not what we have seen in other housing schemes will repeat themselves here, or this indeed, as we have been told by the two gentlemen, is a different kind of project that will succeed. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. I'm grateful to you, Honorable Jonathan Tay Doku, District Chief Executive, Ningo Pram Pram District Assembly, and Dani Ohene Edu, who is the project manager of the Planned City Extension Project at Ningo Pram Pram. Thank you very much. We hope to see you, especially on the day of that big announcement, where the plan will be outdoors. Thank you very much. So please keep monitoring. Is there any website or any number people can call in order to access more information, how to apply, and so on and so forth?
Yes, there are. But because we haven't gone live yet, we want to go live with the announcement.
Exactly. Okay. So that announcement will be made together with all of this information. So when we get it, we'll make sure you have it. Have a very good night. We'll see you tomorrow when we bring you another edition of Moment Tonight. Bye-bye.
This is Moment Tonight. Welcome. Many thanks for joining us. We bring you the real stories.
Abdana, have you put pepper in the tea?
My environment alone will tell you that I'm rich. I've chosen to be in one of the very shallow pits. They also do have miscreants, but it doesn't mean that all of them are criminals.
We do not have a good geodatabase of our mineral resources.
This is a time for us to share the oil money.
So terrorism is not going to be accepted on this continent.
If they see them coming here and going back there, they'll be killed.
But God willing, I'll be back alive.
We're just about leaving on the night patrol with the AU forces here in Somalia.
The real issues, the real talk.
We are working together for the development of Ghana.
It means that we have separation of powers.
Already we're talking about moving from a deficit of some 9% to 6.5%.
The critical challenge that faces every leader in the world today is the issue of creating jobs.
We will put at least 1 million people to work.
Ghana, after 60 years, has a public structure that is not responsive.
Mr. President, I thought this was your main issue why you came here.
Join me, Abdul Hai Moment Tonight, from Monday to Friday, 8:15 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. on GBC 24.